Hey guys, what up? This is GtMichaels 2002 and welcome back to another episode of Late Night Spooks. Today we'll be doing a continuation of a bit of a popular video of mine recently, which is the disturbing documentary Iceberg video, and I did tier 1 last time. We'll now be moving on to tier 2, so the next step down towards the depths of the iceberg. There are 10 tiers in total, but I might skip a couple in the middle and go towards the depths in a later video because there's a lot of content to cover, and I want to cover other icebergs. But this iceberg is created by a user by the name of Lick9. So they commented on my video last time, so it's really nice to see that they saw it. I hope they liked the video, and yeah, the link will be in the description below for the full tier list for you guys to have a look and maybe watch some films. So yeah, absolutely all of the credit for this iceberg goes to Lick9. So for all of you who haven't watched my first video, which I highly recommend you should, as we'll be going deeper into the depths to this video, a iceberg is like a tier list where, but it's not like your average S rank, A rank, B rank list that you see people doing with fast foods and roller coasters and all that sort of stuff. It's a little bit more on the dark end of the internet. It pretty much starts at the tip of the iceberg, which you would think would be the best of the theme, so maybe the most disturbing documentary at the top. Might well be, but it actually goes in order from the top to the bottom is the kind of ascending order of rarity or mysteriousness. So the more further down to the bottom of the iceberg you are, the less likely you are to know about what's in that tier for that theme. So the films at the very depth of this iceberg should be the films that most people have not really heard of, or films that are darker in a sense, but it really is supposed to be going over mysteriousness, but it kind of follows a darker theme. Sometimes the things that people don't know about are sometimes darker in nature, so I guess that's how the theme kind of goes. But yeah, that's the best I can do to describe an iceberg. I think I did it better at my first video, but yeah, there you go. So before we go into this video, I just want to just kind of give you guys a fair warning that we will be dealing with some very disturbing themes for this video. And last video we dealt a lot with animal cruelty and abuse, and for all you animal lovers out there, there's really nothing of that sort on this video. Maybe little tidbits, but from what I remember, there's really nothing on this video. From the script that I've written, there's really nothing there. But I will say that we deal a lot with death, as just in general. That could be homicide or illness, as well as we also deal with tragic events, so shootings, tragedies, terrorist attacks, that sort of stuff we deal with in this video. So I'm sure everyone will be alright with this video. It's just an iceberg video, but again, just in case, and I hope that everyone stays as well as keeps their mental well-being as high as they possibly can. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first documentary we'll be looking at in this video is the film Cropsey from 2009. Since I was a young little wee lad, I had always heard of Cropsey, the name being thrown around everywhere online as one of the most disturbing documentaries ever made. And before I made this video, I gave it a watch finally, after all these years. So the documentary's title, Cropsey, is actually the name of a boogeyman-like legend that originated in the 70s, and Cropsey is said to kidnap children and ultimately kill them. This legend is tied directly to New York City, especially Staten Island, where Willowbrook State School used to operate. And here's a short clip of what they found. It's quite a famous clip, so you might have seen it already, but give it a watch.
The doctor invited me to see the conditions he was talking about, so unannounced and unexpected by the school administration, we toured building number 6. The doctor had warned me that it would be bad. It was horrible. There was one attendant for perhaps 50 severely and profoundly retarded children, and the children, lying on the floor naked and smeared with their own feces, they were making a pitiful sound, the kind of mournful wail that it's impossible for me to forget. This is what it looked like, this is what it sounded like, but how can I tell you about the way it smelled? It smelled of filth, it smelled of disease, and it smelled of death.
Yeah, I know, right? It's pretty damn horrible what happened to these mostly children, so it's just sickening. So after the institution was abandoned for good reason, that's why we don't have anything like that operating these days because how so awful what happened. It really does sicken me a lot to see that happen to innocent people like that. Anyways, after it was abandoned for good reason, teenagers and children were going out at night to explore the derelict Willowbrook State School. And so, of course, Cropsey, the legend, the boogeyman-like legend, was used to scare these children and force them to behave into not going out at night for fear that they would be captured by Cropsey. But for a while, though, Cropsey was just that, a legend used to scare children into line and to stop them from misbehaving. That was until July 9th, 1987, when 12-year-old Jennifer Schweiger was reported missing. Jennifer was born with Down syndrome, so of course the community became extra worried that she might get hurt very quickly. And after a 35-day search, unfortunately, Jennifer's body was found in a shallow grave right next to Willowbrook State School. Nearby the burial site was a campsite made by a homeless man by the name of Andre Rand. After what seemed like ages, the NYPD, or New York Police Department, charged Andre Rand with the first-degree murder and kidnapping of Jennifer Schweiger in 1988. It then came to light that there were 4 more children and young adults that had been missing, some missing more than a decade before Jennifer Schweiger ever went missing. And the ages of these still missing individuals ranged from 21 years all the way down to 5 years of age. None of these missing individuals have ever been found or seen again. But almost all of the past victims, including Jennifer in this case, had some sort of a mental disability of some sort. This led officials to believe that Andre Rand, the supposed real-life Cropsey, was killing off what he saw as the disadvantage to society. Andre himself was deemed mentally disabled, and he actually worked at Willowbrook State School for some time, and this may have made him believe that these children were not fit for society, or that he saw these children as a burden to society because he saw himself as a burden to society. And the documentary goes through a lot of things that might have led up to his eventual, hatred for disabled children or young adults, maybe because of his father's abuse, but his sister, when interviewed, said there was nothing of the such, so it really begs a question to see if it was nature or nurture that led to his possibly all of these crimes that he committed. But here's a silver lining. He was actually convicted of the kidnapping of Holly Ann Hughes, one of those missing individuals, in 2004, and this was 23 years after her initial disappearance, so this is still an ongoing case to this day. Andre, unfortunately, has never been convicted of anything for the other 3 disappearances, not the disappearances nor the murders. And this is even though he had been seen with another of the missing victims, Hank, on the morning of his disappearance, which is just crazy to me. So not only was Hank Caforio last seen with Andre Rand, but as well as Holly Ann Hughes and Alice Pereira. This is why Andre Rand got convicted of Holly Ann Hughes' kidnapping, because there were many eyewitness accounts. But Thais Jackson was still not seen with Andre Rand at any given time, but Andre Rand did hang out in a van outside her apartment complex on multiple occasions. So decide for yourself whether he's guilty of her case as well, but I'm pretty sure he is. Anyways, the documentary Cropsey aims to showcase a link between all that I've ever mentioned about this case, showcasing evidence that Cropsey and the real-life crimes of Andre Rand played off of each other, and he might just be one part of an even bigger cult. This film is really hard to watch, I bet, if you are a parent, if you have a younger siblings like me, and if you just hate to know that there is absolute true evil in this world. Cropsey has won many awards though, and one of which is the Audience Award winner at the Staten Island Film Festival, and it has always been and will continue to be one of the best true crime documentaries ever made, in my opinion, and it is definitely very well known at this point, so I absolutely highly recommend you see this. I highly recommend you see any of the films in this list, but this one was very good. Alright, next movie. Alright, the next film that we'll be looking at is a 2019 film by the name of Parkland Rising. This is a documentary that I have not seen. This documentary tells the true horror story of the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, also known as the Parkland School shooting, and the political activism that has ensued. So for those of you who weren't listening when this was on every news outlet 4 years ago, on February 14th, 2018, then 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, an expelled student of Stoneman Douglas High, entered Building 12 of the school and opened up fire on students and staff, killing 17 people in total. Now, what blows my mind is that while researching this shooting some more, I found out that the security guard noticed Nicholas Cruz walking, quote-unquote, purposefully towards the building with a rifle case and didn't send a code red or even tell someone. Apparently, according to the guard, there was no real threat. Like, what? What a crappy security guard. That's like your antivirus letting a very identifiable and well-known threat into your computer and only trying to fix it after it's done the damage. And to make matters worse, the actual school security team had discussed Nicholas Cruz a year earlier, saying, and I quote, "If there's gonna be anybody who's gonna shoot this school up, it's gonna be that kid," referring to Nicholas. And the team were mostly unarmed sport coaches. Wow, man. Anyways, after the shooting, tons of anti-firearm protests took to the streets of America. Politicians became heavily involved. Obviously, Donald Trump was very involved in this. And as a result of all this, Florida passed what they call the Florida Senate Bill 7026. This changed the minimum legal age of purchasing a firearm from 18 to 21 and banned the purchasing of bump stocks, and also allowed teachers who have been trained to arm themselves in the classroom. Again, this is only viable in Florida, and why did it take so long for the age to get bumped up? Like, I can buy a gun but not get drunk? I love that meme from a while back, using the gang from porn stars. 18-year-olds, can I please have a beer or a cigarette? U.S. government, best I can do is a gun. So good. It is so funny. Anyways, the Parkland Rising documentary showcases all events from A to B on this tragic journey, and is apparently a sad but hopeful look into the past, present, and future of gun control. So yeah, hopefully we don't have to see much of this happening again, but we have had school shootings after this, so especially the one that just happened in Texas. So and that's just so awful to see. I really hope they try and get it under control, because you know it is hurting and killing people, and usually young people. So you know. Anyways, I just hope for the health, wealth, and happiness of everyone. All right, next film. The next film on this list is another film I have not seen, and it is called 13th, and was released in 2016, and it is a Netflix film. So this Netflix film explores the heartbreaking reality of racism and how it connects to the mass incarceration of African Americans. The film is named after the 13th Amendment, which was created to abolish slavery in the United States, and the amendment declares that only people convicted of crimes would be allowed similar servitude as did slaves. However, the film's director, writer, and producer Ava DuVernay argues that slavery has continued to exist after this amendment, with examples such as the Jim Crow laws and mass incarceration within African American communities, and even other minority communities. And even though crime has been decreasing rapidly within the past 30 years in the United States, for some reason the incarceration rates have actually been increasing for the past 50 years. This documentary aims to take a stab at the prison industrial complex and as a reason for this prejudice, and why America is home to 25% of the world's prison population, but only 5% of the world's total population. Like, what's with that that difference? Something's going up, man. This film showcased amazing evidence toward the continued oppression of the African American community, and has since garnered a viewership increase of over 4,600% due to the George Floyd protests and ensuing Black Lives Matter movement. It was also nominated for the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature and won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Documentary. Since it's on Netflix, I think we should all give it a watch. After this video, I know I will. Next documentary we'll be looking at today is The Woman Who Wasn't There, which is a documentary from 2012, and I haven't seen this, but after researching this documentary, I have to see this, because the story behind this film is literally insane. This documentary revolves around the story of a woman by the name of Tanya Head. Tanya is a Spanish woman who became very famous for being a survivor of 9/11, but she even became the president of the World Trade Center Survivors Network, which is a support group for those who survived the September 11th attacks. Unfortunately, it was revealed in 2007 that Tanya Head wasn't even in the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. She wasn't even in New York, or even America for that matter. She was actually in her native city, Barcelona, Spain, where she was attending her classes under another name. So she made the whole ordeal up and completely disappeared after all of this came out about her, of course, which is super messed up, but it's incredibly disrespectful to the actual survivors of 9/11. But some of the survivors who were part of her support group said that even though she lied about all that, she still helped them get through it. And so it's a big fight between whether what she did was immoral, completely immoral, or a bit immoral and also a kind act. So I'll leave that up to you to decide, and also up to you to watch this documentary, as I will leave it up to me to watch it, because this story seems so bloody crazy. I have to watch it for myself, so should all of you. Next film. The next film on this list is a film that I enjoyed watching very much, and is a film by the name of Icarus from 2017. And this is a Netflix film, so I'm sure all of you would be able to watch this right now. So I'll be honest, this film didn't seem very interesting to me at first, but I watched it on Netflix like weeks ago, and wow, man. This documentary is directed, written, and produced by a man named Brian Fogel, and he stars in his own film. And this film follows Brian through his journey of doping in order to win an amateur cycling race, which he does by injecting testosterone into his body. And he does all this in a way to ensure that he actually passes the drugs test before the race. And it's surprisingly what he shows. From what he shows, it's surprisingly easy to do. He actually gets help from the head of a massive Russian anti-doping laboratory, and a guy by the name of Grigory Rodchenkov. And Brian's surprised by how much Grigory knows about cheating the tests. And it is revealed that Grigory is also the head of the Olympic doping program that is state-sponsored in Russia. During the filming of this documentary, the world finds out about the allegations while they're filming it, unbeknownst to them, and Brian has Grigory flown to Los Angeles for them to meet, knowing that Russia might be looking to, quote-unquote, silence Grigory. By silence, I mean literally assassinate him. It's definitely an intense and very real film that showcases how Russia has been probably doping their athletes and getting away with it for decades. Like Grigory states at one point, referring to the cameraman, "Be very careful with what you are recording. It's not permitted. It's like pornography and erotics." I have to say, that sums up the feel of the film very well. And it's a very unique and somewhat, I wouldn't say somewhat, like a very uncomfortable feeling. Like, honestly, watching this film made me feel like I was going to get assassinated. However, as a training powerlifter myself, I found this very insightful, and I commend you all to give this masterpiece a watch. After all, it did win the Oscar as the best documentary feature, and it's right there on Netflix, so give it a watch. I commend you to give it a watch. All right, next film. The next film on this list, we're coming to film number 6, so we're three quarters of the way through now, and this is The Amazing Jonathan from 2019, and I have not seen this film. So I really trying to research this documentary some more, and I haven't really come up with much, but I will tell you what I know. So I think the film revolves around the documentation of the latest tour of dying comic magician John Edward Zellish, aka The Amazing Jonathan. From what I've seen in the reviews, all the reviews are less than favorable and are attacking the documentary for its apparent bait and switch. Because even though this documentary appears to be all about The Amazing Jonathan, it actually appears to be more about the documentary's creator, a filmmaker by the name of Benjamin Berman. He explains that his knack for exploring people who are close to death may have come from his mother's death early on in his life. Again, I don't know too much about this film, but it may be a shocking look into the life of someone who knows that they won't be around for much longer. Sadly, John Zellish, The Amazing Jonathan, passed away earlier this year in February 2022 in his sleep. He apparently told a live audience in 2014 that he only had 1 year to live due to a serious heart condition, but as you can see, he went on for much longer than that and continued to tour for another 5 years after that, so good on him. He really is the Amazing Jonathan. But yeah, it's definitely scary to think that after that year had passed, he would have had no idea when he would have been gone and which moment would have been his last. So for some people, that might be even scarier. But yeah, if you give this documentary a watch, leave in the comments section below what you felt about it, because I think it's a bit of a, I think it's the enigma of this list. So yeah, I'll try and find a place to watch it that doesn't look sketchy. But yeah, next film. Next up on this list, we have Grizzly Man from 2005. So I gave this film a watch because, like Cropsey, I'd always heard of this being one of the more disturbing documentaries out there. And yeah, I watched it, I think, I forgot where I watched it on, but yeah, even though this film is M here in Australia, which is an equivalent to PG-13 for all you Americans, it's one of the most horrifying, shocking, upsetting, but also slightly beautiful films I have ever seen, period. This film was created, directed by, and narrated by a German man by the name of Werner Herzog, who might be very familiar to all you Mandalorian lovers, as he played the client in the first season of the Disney Plus hit. Anyways, in this film, Werner explores the videotapes and life story of bear enthusiast Timothy Treadwell, who was quite a celebrity when he was alive. I say this because, unfortunately, while staying at Katmai National Park in October of 2003, both Timothy Treadwell and his girlfriend, Amy Huguenard, were violently killed and almost entirely consumed by a grizzly bear. If you read the autopsy report for what they did find, brings chills, man. Anyways, what makes this even more harrowing was that there was actually a video camera in their tent which was recording at the time of their death, so there's actual audio footage of them being attacked and eaten by a grizzly bear, and it runs for 5 or 6 minutes, and there's no video because there's a lot of different theories onto why there was only audio, not video, and they say it was either maybe because the lens cap was still on, it was in a bag, but it does sound like it was raining, so they don't know if it was nighttime, daytime. They might have their own theories, but right now a lot of it's a mystery, but that's all they had to go off of. I would say you can relate this audio tape of this death as famous as the SeaWorld footage of the trainer being mauled that was described in Blackfish. It's one of those films that they've said is online somewhere, but it's kind of just one of those banned footages that you will never be able to see, and it's always controversial when they say it's up online. This Timothy Treadwell death tape, with also his girlfriend Amy Huguenard, has said to be on YouTube, but people just say it is completely fake, and as well as people who have listened to the tape have said, officials and all that have said it's completely fake and should not be listened to. But some people might say that they're saying it's fake because they don't want people to know what the sounds of a man being torn alive and eaten by a bear, as well as his girlfriend trying to defend him and getting eaten afterward, sounds like. So maybe they're just trying to protect him. They go, oh no, it's all fake, but what they're really listening to is real. They're just trying to defend, protect their mental sanity from what they've just heard. And I've heard the supposedly fake clip. It's everywhere online, and honestly, it sounds pretty convincing. Some of the bear sounds sound pretty fake, but no, man. If that is real, it is so. Even if it's fake, just to imagine that that's what it must have sounded like. It is so terrifying. It'll keep you up at night. Even if it's fake, it will keep you up at night. Anyways, the most disturbing part of this documentary is what you don't see, and as you can probably tell. And in a particular scene, Werner listens to the tape in front of Jewel, who was Timothy's ex-girlfriend and former very good friend, and that's why she's been entrusted with all of his belongings after both Timothy and Amy's death. And so she actually she's in possession of this tape, and Werner actually she allowed Werner to actually listen to it. The tape, and she's claimed to have never listened to this tape herself, but we see Werner listening to it as well as Jules' reaction to him listening to it, and it is so emotional. And after listening to the tape, Werner tells Jules, you should never ever listen to that tape or see any of the coroner autopsy photos that he has seen. And the part that really gets me is when she cries and she says, "Now you know why no one's gonna hear it." And that just, wow, man, it's disturbing, and it leaves it up to imagination. It's really an emotional film. Like, it probably a top 10 emotional films I've ever seen in my life, and it's just crazy. Now, it has been said this documentary seeks to portray Timothy as someone who has completely gone mad and who is way too friendly with the bears, and, you know, he got him and his girlfriend killed, like it was his fault. But Werner seeks to instead showcase the beauty of what Timothy had captured while he was still alive, and portraying him as a filmmaker, just like Werner is himself. It is a tribute. I see it as a tribute to a filmmaker from another filmmaker. And that's how this film is very bittersweet to me, because yeah, it's horrible what happened to Timothy and Amy, but, you know, the little bright side to it is looking at the incredible footage that he collected, all of these amazing and dangerous creatures. So yeah, I highly recommend. Werner Herzog is amazing and so talented, and love his portrayal of Timothy in this documentary. Watching it is a true experience, but still, rest in peace to Timothy Treadwell and his girlfriend, because that must have been an awful way to go. But yeah, next film. Alright, so up to the 8th and last film for this tier. Yes, 8 films, not 10 like last time. And this is a film called Tickled from 2016. This is another film I haven't seen, but we are really ending off with a bizarre one tonight, folks. Tickled is a New Zealand documentary from the filmmaker David Faria, who later became popular for his Netflix series Dark Tourist, which I highly recommend, by the way. It's awesome. Anyways, David becomes involved with researching this competitive tickling fetish that is on the internet, which is where athletic men are strapped down and tickled by each other. It's very much for erotic purposes, I think, from what I read, but it's like the company is stating that it's not erotic and it's all just competition, but I don't think anyone would agree with that. Anyways, David attempts to actually meet up with the producer of this video, but the company flips out over David's request, which leads David and the crew into a giant, weird internet rabbit hole. It later becomes apparent in the show that the people who have created the people who created the footage, and who actually shown the footage, like the male participants in these footage, were actually apparently verbally and mentally abused by the people who were creating it. And there was threats of blackmailing put towards the participants all the time. I will have to try and give this one a watch, because I loved Dark Tourist, and it sounds incredibly strange to me. So I want to see what David became known for before Dark Tourist was a thing. So yeah, absolutely, I will be giving it a watch. And yeah, if you guys are into that sort of creepy stuff and strange stuff, absolutely give it a watch too. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Please leave a like, subscribe, check out my other videos. And yeah, this took me quite a while to make, much longer than the first video, because there was a lot of I thought I should go a little bit more in depth and do a lot of research, so I had a little bit more of a script this time around, but I hope it still came off natural enough to you guys. And I hope you like the pop filter. But yeah, I'll definitely be back to do another one, and I'll probably do a later tier, or tier I see much more I see really interesting things on, because I think it'll just kind of be like, you know, droning on if I do all 10. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, if I should do all 10 or just do some of the good ones, which is what I think, but your choice. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Don't let any of the spooks bite. See you guys.